So how much legal trouble is the former president actually in, and could he be going to jail? Well, one person has been speaking out about Donald Trump's legacy, and that's his former attorney, Rudy Giuliani.
This one will be your legacy, violating the right of free speech of an American citizen. Never mind whether he was president or not. It could be anybody. It could be a homeless person. You don't get to violate people's First Amendment rights, Smith, no matter who the hell you are, or no matter how sick you are with Trump derangement syndrome. And this isn't the first time you've acted like an unethical lawyer. It should be the last.
Well, let's use that as our jumping off point, shall we? To go to Massachusetts and speak to Donald Trump's former lawyer and author of the best-selling book, Get Trump, Alan Dershowitz. Alan, thanks for making time for us again this evening. I really enjoyed our conversation yesterday. I want to remind our viewers of something you said about the First Amendment, where you said people can have the right within the US Constitution to have a false opinion or, indeed, a false idea. Have you had a development of your thinking over the last 24 hours with regard to reading that indictment since then?
Well, I've read it very carefully. It's not the kind of indictment that should be brought when it's being brought by the man against whom Donald Trump is running for president. The incumbent president's attorney general brought this indictment, and it should be the strongest indictment in history before you can go after the man running against you. Otherwise, you're interfering with an election. Look, I want to vote against Donald Trump. I voted against him twice. I have a constitutional right to vote against him for the third time. Yes, I defended him, but I defend a lot of people I disagree with. I disagree with Donald Trump. I disagree with Rudy Giuliani. But I don't think that this indictment satisfies the First Amendment and the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution. First Amendment protects the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Trump believed he won the election. He was wrong, but he petitioned the government and he failed. Also, he had lawyers to help him, and they have been named as unindicted co-conspirators. So this indictment endangers the right of defendants to have zealous and creative lawyers, and goes after the lawyers too. Trump's had a hard time getting lawyers to defend him because there's a group of lawyers on the left in the United States that are filing bar charges against anybody who's ever defended him. When I criticize that group, they filed a bar charge against me. And so what we see is an attempt to intimidate lawyers. I won't be intimidated. I'm too old for that. But I'm going to fight for the right of people who I disagree with and want to vote against. So I'm hoping this indictment will not result in a conviction. It would be bad for America and bad for our freedom of speech.
I think you've got the rights of the American people and the American voters at the forefront of your mind there. Do you feel like they are being duly protected, not only in the criminal justice system at the moment, the way this process is playing out, but in the way that politics is happening around them? Do you think they're getting a fair whack at life with these types of people getting power?
No, I think that both sides are going to lose in the end. The American people are going to lose because today it's going to be the Democrats that go after the Republicans. Tomorrow it'll be the Republicans going after the Democrats. Already we're seeing Republicans calling for the impeachment of Joe Biden on unconstitutional grounds. I would defend Joe Biden as vigorously as I defended President Trump against an improper impeachment. Both sides are weaponizing the legal system for their own partisan advantage, and the losers are the American people who have their rights suffer in the process: the right of free speech, the right of political association, the right to petition, and the right to have counsel. We are a weaker democracy today than we were before this all happened.
I want to bring our other American guests that we currently have standing by in on this then to get their response to the points that you've just made. Dr. Jan Helper-Hayes and Joe Walsh still joining us down the line. Dr. Jan, I'll start with you based on what we were just hearing there from Alan. Do you agree that the American public are being sold short here?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely. Well, the fact is that I think we have very immature politicians that really play petty games, and they have not served the people for a number of decades. And for this game to keep on going, just like the Russia hoax, et cetera, it really it's a distraction, which they want to do from what the real issues are.
coming to Joe Walsh now to get your views from the US. Of course, as a former Republican contender for nomination yourself or for presidency, and just as a US citizen, do you agree with what Alan Dershowitz said?
Look, I appreciate what Alan Dershowitz said, and I appreciate the fact that we have to always be cognizant and vigilant of our justice system trying to interfere with an election. But we have to balance that with the fact that no one is above the law in this country, not even a candidate for president. And I need to emphasize this again. Look, you can disagree with what's in this indictment, but don't say that Donald Trump was indicted because of things he said. He's being indicted for things he did. You have a right to lie about the election. You don't have a right to purposely lie in court filings about the election. That is what he is alleged, that's just one, to have done. That's a crime. That's something Trump did.
Alan, last night when we debated this idea, you said the answer to a false idea is the marketplace of ideas, not criminal prosecution. Do you stand by that with regard to what Joe is just saying?
Absolutely. And the government has to prove under his theory that Donald Trump actually knew he had lost the election. And I know a lot of people who are close to Donald Trump. I'm not associated with Donald Trump, but I know a lot of people who are close to him. They all believe that Donald Trump actually talked himself into it, believed that he had actually won the election. Now, is that a defense? You can call it the stupid defense. I'm so stupid that I actually believed I won the election when everybody knows I lost the election. But under the Supreme Court decisions on First Amendment, New York Times versus Sullivan, et cetera, there's a very, very high burden on the government, even in civil cases, to show not only that he was wrong, but that he was maliciously wrong. And in the criminal case, they may have to show that he subjectively knew he was wrong. And that's going to be a hard mountain for the prosecution to climb. And I think ultimately they'll fail if that's the test, because I think Donald Trump, for whatever reason, actually believed that the election was stolen. He was dead wrong about that. But the issue is not whether he was right or wrong. That's for the marketplace of ideas. The issue in a criminal case is whether he actually engaged in fraud, actually engaged in corruption. And to prove fraud and corruption, you have to prove subjective intent, that he actually knew that he was lying when he said that he had won the election. I don't think they're going to be able to prove that.
Joe, you're shaking your head. Go ahead.
No, well, I'm shaking my head because I respect the hell out of Alan Dershowitz, but I don't believe that. It doesn't matter if Trump believed he won. It's a crime. What Donald Trump is alleged to have done was to pressure state legislators to exceed their constitutional authority. That is a crime, whether Trump believed he won the election or not. Again, it's on the actions of Donald Trump. It doesn't matter what he thought.
It didn't matter.
Well, it does matter.
Go on.
It does matter what he thought. If he thought he had won the election, then it's not pressuring. Then it's asking people to do the right thing, just the way I was asked to do the right thing in 2000 when I thought the election was stolen from Al Gore by the butterfly ballot in Florida. And I represented the Democrats of Palm Beach County, and the court ruled I was wrong. But nobody suggested that.
To ask state legislators to exceed their constitutional authority, that's okay? To ask them to do
that's okay. The answer to that is let the court say no. They're exceeding their authority. But good lawyers press the envelope very far. And, you now think that they were being asked to exceed their authority. He thought that that was within their authority. And there were people who supported that view. Remember, too, that in Hawaii in 1960, a judge ruled that the way to challenge a presidential election is to come up with an alternate slate of electors. So it all comes down to what Donald Trump actually believed. Yes, he did. But if he did things based on his belief, they're not crimes.
Just a point on the burden of proof point you brought up there as well. I'm not saying that Mike Pence is going to be testifying in court, but he's come out swinging very vocally against Donald Trump and saying, when it came to that vote count stuff, there was, I can't remember, but a gaggle of lawyers and, everything else. He's basically come out and debunked Trump's version of events. Do you...
No, he hasn't. He has the question that he'll be asked by the defense on cross-examination did Donald Trump ever look you in the eye and admit that he knew he had lost the election? And Pence will have to answer that question honestly. No, he always said he won the election. He was wrong, he was dumb, he was perverse, but he always said he won the election. And Pence may be asked, did you believe that? I don't know if that's admissible or not, but if he's asked if he believed it, I think Pence will say, yeah, I believed it. That's who Trump is. He actually thought he won the election. He was dead wrong. So I don't think they have a smoking gun here.
Let's remind our viewers, Mike Pence, of course, was vice president under Trump. Let's take a listen to what he just said.
I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution. But I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I mean, I really do believe that anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States.
There we go. That was Mike Pence speaking there. And according to Alan Dershowitz, of course, when he does testify in this, and if and when we do see that, he will be asked straight in the eye whether or not Trump did believe these things. I mean, I'm paraphrasing Dershowitz terribly here, but you heard it there yourself.